What is up, guys? Random Mr. 411 here, and today I realized I've seen a lot of 2015 movies, but I haven't reviewed all of them. As a matter of fact, I've seen 30, and I've seen 78 movies from 2015, and I haven't reviewed 30 of them. So right now, I'm just gonna sum up every single one, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. So without further ado, let's get into my 30 short movie review. First up, we have the sequel that no one wanted, which is Hot Tub Time Machine 2. And I really have nothing to say about this one besides that it's really dumb, it's boring, and it's easily one of the worst comedies of 2015. There was only one moment in the film when I realized I was laughing hardcore. But besides that, this movie is a complete and utter failure. The characters seem extremely uninterested, script isn't as inventive as it could have been, and the direction is pure garbage. So overall, I give Hot Tub Time Machine 2 a D-. Right along, we have the short film that appeared before Cinderella, which was Frozen Fever. Now granted, I'm not the biggest Frozen fan. Actually thinking about it, I really don't enjoy it that much. But overall, I still thought this short was alright. The characters weren't anything bad or spectacular, they were just their regular old self. And while the musical number in this isn't nearly as memorable as Let It Go, it still works and it's a bit catchy for the time being. So overall, I would give Frozen Fever a C+. Right along, we have the January thriller The Loft, which is easily one of the biggest letdowns of the year. With the whodunit concept they had to work with, they made it very lame, predictable, boring, overall just lazy. The characters are all jerks, and you hope all of them die throughout the entire film. You don't care which one killed them. You're just like, you know what? I don't even care if you killed them. I just want all of you to die. So overall, I'd give the Loft a D. Also, I forgot to mention the twist is really bad. Along, we have the latest Friedberg and Salter parody, Superfast. This time, it's making fun of the Fast and Furious franchise, and all I can say is this is one of the worst films I've seen in my entire life. If it wasn't for Hot Pursuit being in wide release, this would easily be the worst film of 2015. So overall, I'd give Superfast an F. Right along, we have the indie comedy Adult Beginners, which has a great cast containing Rose Byrne, Bobby Cannavale, and Nick Kroll. While the story is very cliche and cheesy, I still didn't mind this movie whatsoever. I found myself laughing quite a bit and overall caring for the characters somewhat, in some strange way, at some moments. So while it's surely not the best comedy of 2015, I definitely recommend checking this out on a rainy day if you just want to watch a cute little film. So overall, I'd give Adult Beginners a B-. Right along, we have the George Lopez drama Spare Parts, which is about a Mexican school competing in a robotics competition. And honestly, while this is even more generic than the previous film I discussed, I still didn't mind it. Sure, the acting isn't the greatest, and the movie is very predictable, but I still think it tells a very good message and it has an inspirational, yet sappy feel for it. So overall, I'd give Spare Parts a C+. Right along, we have My Life, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, which is a documentary about the man behind the camera of films like Drive and Only God Forgives. And I have to say, while most people said that they thought the subplot with his wife was unnecessary, I was really invested with that, as well as the story of his struggle with making Only God Forgives. Sure, I would have liked to see a little bit more of the Only God Forgives storyline, but overall, I found this to be a great documentary, in my humble opinion. So overall, I'd give My Life, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, a B+. Along, we have Kristen Wiig dramedy Welcome to Me, which is about her. She acquires money from winning the lottery, and she buys her own TV show slot. Now, while this is an interesting premise, the way it's executed is god-awful. The film never really finds its tone, it never finds out if it wants to be a comedy or a drama, and when it tries both aspects, it just fails completely and it doesn't flow well. Drama feels forced and the comedy just isn't funny. So overall, I'd give Welcome to Me a D+. Moving right along, we have Kingsman: The Secret Service. Matthew Vaughn once again provides a fantastic action film, but this time it's also a comedy, and honestly, all of these jokes blend into the script perfectly. The acting by everyone is amazing as well. Taron Egerton does a great job, Colin Firth does a great job, Samuel L. Jackson, Sophia Boutella, everyone's great. And if I had a problem, I'd say the film does feel a bit too long at 2+ hours, but overall I had an insanely fun time with Kingsman. So overall, I'd give Kingsman the Secret Service an A-. Moving right along, we have Unfinished Business, which is just a flat-out strange movie. While I was never bored in the film, I certainly wasn't always laughing. The movie had a hefty amount of purely idiotic scenes that aren't entertaining, as well as containing a band of bland characters. But there were a few moments that I was chuckling. Maybe it's because I forced myself to, but whatever. So overall, I'd give Unfinished Business a D. Right along we have DreamWorks Home, that is surely a stupid and childish film, but another one that I found to be entertaining and cute. There are a couple of jokes that I laughed at, and the movie goes by pretty fast, and I enjoyed the animation. But overall, the stupidity brings the movie down quite a bit. So overall, I'd give Home a C. Right along we have McFarland USA, which is very similar to last year's $1 Million Arm, which I was a sucker for. And saying that, I love this movie as well. Such a great motivational film with interesting characters, motivating story, and fantastic writing. It might be predictable, but it sure is enthralling. So overall, I'd give McFarland USA, and right along we have The Voices, which stars Ryan Reynolds, and it's about his two pets who talk to him, and one of them motivates him to start killing people. Is there any more I really need to say? This is easily one of the most entertaining films of 2015, as well as the most crazy, implausible, and enjoyable. The plot might be too outlandish for the average viewer, but if you're a fan of quirky films, I implore you to see this. So overall, I'd give The Voices an A-. Right along, we have Jurassic World, which is only the highest opening weekend of all time. With that said, I really enjoyed this film and I had a really fun time. The acting by everyone is great, especially from Chris Pratt, who makes anything good. Also, the CGI effects were really well done, and I felt like the dinosaurs were coming at me as I saw it in 3D. My main problem is some implausibilities within the film, as well as the Mercedes-Benz product placement. So overall, I'd give Jurassic World a B+. Right along, we have 5 Flights Up, which is a film that most couples 60 and over should watch, as it's meant for that demographic. But I really like this film as well. While it's certainly a heavily cheesy film, and it's predictable from a mile away, the dynamic between Freeman and Keaton is phenomenal, as they are a couple in real life. The film also goes by really fast, and it's just overall an enjoyable flick, which older couples for sure love. So overall, I'd give 5 Flights Up. Right along, we have Paddington, which is one of my favorites so far this year. Not only does this have great CGI, stellar performances, and hilarious comedy, but it also has a huge element of family and heart within the film that 100% works, and you can feel the bond between Paddington and the English family. The only thing preventing this from a 5 out of 5 is Nicole Kidman as the villain. I felt like she was way too over the top. But besides that, I loved this film. So overall, I'd give Paddington. Moving right along, we have Danny Collins, which is indeed a comeback for Mr. Al Pacino. He does a fantastic job here as this washed-up singer, and you're really emotionally attached to his character. In addition, Jennifer Garner, Bobby Cannavale, and Annette Bening all give great performances. The romantic element is also really well done here, and the family aspect, while it is cliche, it's still very interesting. So overall, I'd give Danny Collins a B+. Right along, we have the throwback film Dope, which while it didn't live up to my huge expectations, I still really enjoyed the film. The leads in the film are mainly all unknowns, and they give excellent performances, especially Shameik Moore. The film also has a really 90s nostalgia feel to it with its scenery and its score, which is also my favorite score this year. But the film gets really somewhat confusing and overall has this message of wherever you come from, you can do anything shoved down your throat. While I obviously agree with that statement, I feel like it could have been said in a less subtle way. So overall, I'd give Dope a B. Right along, we have Predestination, which is a complete mind-bender of a film, including a phenomenal plot. Another great thing about the movie is that it has great performances. While Ethan Hawke gives a great performance, Sarah Snook is the definite standout. Throughout the entire film, you are invested in her story, as it does have a ton of twists and turns that you'll find throughout the movie. Also, it has an extremely short runtime at 97 minutes. So overall, I'd give Predestination, and right along we have The Cobbler. This film has a very interesting story. Adam Sandler cobbles shoes. Whenever he tries on the shoes, he turns into that person. And while this certainly is not the greatest film of the year, it was still pretty fun. Sandler gives a somewhat likable and funny performance. However, Steve Buscemi's character seems very out of place. Also, I would have liked to see a bit more of Sandler getting into these people's emotions when he tries the shoes on, but I was never really bored in the film. So overall, I'd give The Cobbler a C+. Right along, we have the short film that premiered before Inside Out, Lava. While this certainly is the weirdest short film Pixar has made, I still thought it was a very cute and different love story. So overall, I'd give Lava a B+. Right along, we have Lorne Michaels' Staten Island Summer. This has an SNL feel to it since it's directed by Michaels himself and stars 2 regular cast members of SNL. And honestly, that's not that bad of a thing. Is this film great? No. But I still really enjoyed it. The teenagers are pretty damn funny, even if they are douches, and the film goes by extremely fast since it's around 80 minutes. But there is some forced romance as well as idiotic humor. Plus, the film goes way too over the top at the end. So overall, I'd give Staten Island Summer a B-. Right along, we have Creep, which is a film made by Blumhouse Pictures. So even though I didn't really like Insidious Chapter 3, I really actually loved Creep. Patrick Bryce directs this film with a gigantic amount of tension, and I'd honestly go as far to say this is the creepiest film I've ever seen. Not scariest, but creepiest. Another thing that contributes to that is the fact that we only ever see 2 characters in the film. One of them is the director himself, which gives a great performance. However, Mark Duplass is the creeper in the film, and all I can say is I will never see him the same again, even after that ending. So overall, I'd give Creep an A-. Right along, we have the HBO parody 7 Days in Hell. Andy Samberg and Kit Harington play rival tennis players, and it's really funny. Are a lot of the jokes set up by dumb comedy? Of course. But I was a sucker for this one. It doesn't run on too long as it's only 46 minutes, and Samberg and Harington play great rivals in the film. So overall, I'd give 7 Days in Hell a B-. Right along, we have the finale to the MCU Phase 3, Ant-Man. While I do think this film is one of the weakest out of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, I still had a really fun time. Rudd proved he could be a believable action hero. Michael Douglas also gives a great performance, but the best is Michael Pena. In every scene this dude's in, he's hysterical. My flaws fall into the fact that Evangeline Lilly was a really poor love interest, and the villain has a terrible motivation as well as the protagonist. And this is just a nitpick, but I think it would have been better in the hands of Edgar Wright. So overall, I'd give Ant-Man a B+. Right along, we have True Story, which stars the comedy duo of Jonah Hill and James Franco. But this is the exact opposite of a comedy. This is a drama of all sorts. Jonah Hill's character, Mike Finkel's identity is stolen by James Franco, who puts that name down after committing a crime. In my opinion, this is a B-movie thriller. It's not terrible, but it's not perfect. The film has fantastic performances by Hill, Franco, and Felicity Jones. The movie also has a very interesting story, even if it is pretty predictable. However, I have to say the last 20 minutes or so of this movie start turning very strange and overall just odd. So overall, I'd give True Story a B-. Along, we have Trainwreck, which is a film fan's first taste of Amy Schumer, and in my opinion, it works quite well. Schumer is quite likable in the film, along with Bill Hader, and surprisingly LeBron James, who stole the show in every scene he was in. Colin Quinn also gives a really funny performance, and the film is just overall funny. But Apatow directs this film the same way he directs every other movie. It's way too long, and it also has that point that horribly flows from comedy to drama. So overall, I'd give Trainwreck. Right along, we have Paper Towns, which is another film from John Green, who's the man behind last year's The Fault in Our Stars. And in my opinion, this is 10 times better than T-Fios. Albeit this isn't really a romance film, but I think that works in the movie's favor. The movie also has really realistic characters and a fascinating story. Plus, the comedy works amazingly in the film. My only real gripe is that the ending is kinda awkward. While I will say it's unpredictable, it's just a bit strange. So overall, I'd give Paper Towns. Right along, we have The D Train, which is a different comedy. Starring Jack Black and James Marsden, the film has a weird plot that kind of works. Plus, the acting is pretty good. Jack Black plays his over-the-top self, which I adore. James Marsden can play any real character that he'd like in a film, so that's all I have to say about him. As for the film itself, some might find it useless and quirky, and while I would describe it as both of those, I think it's still a very fun and entertaining movie that displays a great bromance between Marsden and Black. So overall, I'd give The D Train a C+. We have The Gallows, which admittedly I felt somewhat frightened near the film's finale. Besides that though, The Gallows contains a horribly executed plot, terrible characters, and the dumbest twist I've ever seen in my entire life. And you can definitely quote me on that. So overall, I'd give The Gallows a D.